Hi, this is Yudimson, and today I am going to do a super relaxing and easy painting with watercolor of a pink flower. So I'm going really fast to sketch something like a flower, which it has a center. It's going to have a few petals coming from that area, and if you decide to sketch it, do 3 circles inside each other. So a baby circle, a medium circle that it's much bigger, and then another circle that has a small difference between the medium and the outside. And then separate them in a few different sections, like you can do 3 or 4, whatever makes you happy. And after you do that preliminary sketch, do the outside of those sections with ridges and wiggles, so it's not a smooth circle, but you just want to add details. So zigzag it, make it bigger or smaller so it's not a perfect circle around, so break that perfect shape. And what we're gonna do is we're gonna do wet on wet. So we're gonna make our surface wet, but we're gonna work one petal at a time, and then we're gonna load the wet brush with a ton of paint, and we're gonna start dropping it in, and we'll see what happens. Pretty much it's going to be a super relaxing because you're just gonna let the paint do the hard work, and you're just making the surface wet and dropping the paint in and just observe and see what happens. And it's beautiful and relaxing. It's not a lot of work. It's super simple. You can do it in any color you want, and I like to flip my canvas around to just make it easy on myself so I don't touch the paper with my hand and smear everything, because that happens a lot. And again, I am going to drop in the paint on the wet area and kind of leave it alone. And I'm gonna repeat that for absolutely every single petal. So the only thing I'm trying to do is not to get the water touch the next or the neighbor petal, so they don't merge into each other. So I'm trying to keep them a little bit separate. So that's the hardest part, which I'm sure you guys gonna be able to do no problem at all. And I made these petals kind of look like they're overlapping, so that creates another illusion that this is petals, not 3 circles with separation between. So let's put some orange, why not? That hot pink will look really nice with some orange in it before my water dries up completely. So I have, I think, 2 more petals there that I have to do in pink, but before the water dries, I wanted to drop this orange in it, and yeah, it looks great. The clouds that it's creating, they're beautiful. So let's do the last 2 petals. And again, dropping the paint in and just maybe give it a little direction, but leave it alone and just see what happens. I think this is too much white for my liking, so I'm gonna go in, make it a little wet, soften the edge, maybe drop a little bit of paint. I don't want to take completely the white, but I definitely didn't want it like super white. So let's do one more petal. I think that will be the last one here. And you see how I made them look like they're overlapping, but they're really, if you simplify the shapes, it's 3 circles on top of each other. Gonna get a little more of that really bright, nice red and drop it in. It's getting dry, the surface of the paper, so it's not really moving as much, but that's okay. I'm trying to close the distance on some of them because now it's not soaking wet. And just with tiny bit of color and a little bit of a wet brush, I'm going over those areas where I have left that line of white. I'm going in and just gently moving the paint and closing the gap, but still keeping the color separate. So you see how the rim of each petal is darker versus the inner part of the petal. So that will make them more separated visually. And let's do a little wet on the center and drop another color in. We're gonna drop a little bit of blue, so the blue and purple will be beautiful together. Also, even if the blue mixes with some of the red, it'll still be okay because it's going to create like a darker purplish color, so it will be totally fine. And I'm just getting a little more color, so I didn't put a ton of water in the center, so I'm moving with tiny little brush strokes either from inside out or outside in. I'm just creating like almost like spikes all around and pointed kind of towards the center, but you can see I did not fill in the whole space. And I'm gonna add like petals on, not petals, leaves, excuse me. I'm gonna add some leaves to my flower just to make it look more like a flower. And trying to stay inside my space, I'm using green mixed with some yellow and also green mixed with blue. So those colors are really nice colors to mix together. So experiment and see. I also sometimes do ochre with my green or blue, or even ochre with my black to create like dirty blue, dirty green, I mean, sorry. And I think now that looks pretty good. I'm really happy with the flower. And you can see how the blue just totally fine mixes in and creates that beautiful speckly leaves on the flower. So I'm gonna add a little tiny detail. Why not? We're just playing around and see what happens. So I'm just using bluish green, which is more blue than green, and that just made it perfectly imperfect. And since we're here, why not add a little more details to our petals? So I am going to emphasize on the edges, and that's going to make them pop out and stand out. And of course, if the edge is a little bit too much, I'm gonna soften it with clean wet brush. But pretty much that's it. So if you did see, I did mix my red with a little bit of blue to create a purplish color to emphasize on the rim of all the petals on the edge, and that is going to help a lot. Yeah, I think I'm happy I did that. That looks great. And let's create a few lines coming from the center out to make it look more like a flower. But this is just a super relaxing way of doing a flower, and since it looks so great, why not making something to go with it? So I am going to pull an envelope and just create a half a flower just to be fast. and pretty much repeat the whole process. Now the only thing when I'm painting on envelopes that are not watercolor envelopes, which that is not a watercolor envelope, I'm not using as much water, so I'm using a lot more paint and not necessarily color. So I'm using different strengths of paint versus water and dropping the color in, because it's not really spreading the same way as a watercolor paper, but it still works great. So now I have a set of a card and an envelope, and pretty much we can be done right here. It looks great. There's the blue center, and let's add a little more details real fast all around. And of course we only did 3 petals, and now the leaf part, and I think that will be it. Yes, perfect. Oh, it looked too lonely. All right, that helps filling the space. And signature is in order on both places. A lot of times I try to hide my signature somewhere inside the painting, but I think that's totally fine. And I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you did, please don't forget to subscribe and push that notification bell so you get notifications for future videos. So that's it. All right, we'll see you next week. Thanks for watching. Bye.